Oh, incredible. Is this not working? Oh, no, it is working. Incredible. Well, welcome, I assume, nobody to objectively the worst thing I have ever done. I am going to rank every single movie I have ever seen in my entire life. The way this is going to work is I'm going to go on letterbox.com, which has tracked every movie I've ever seen or every movie I remember seeing. This only includes movies I've seen in full, and that I remember seeing in full and have an opinion on, so nothing I watched as a kid and fell asleep during. And then I'm going to go into this spreadsheet and rank them. Kind of comparatively. I don't have the numbers drawn out now. I'm just going to put them in one at a time and see where it goes. I am going to start with the first and the last movies on this list, just to give you guys a metric of what we're working with here. So, the number one movie of all time, and anyone who knows me can guess this one pretty easily, is the Lego Batman movie. And this is, hang on, I gotta type this. This is my first time doing any streaming, so if it's terrible, I understand. The Lego Batman movie, objectively the greatest movie of all time, no flaws. The animation is incredible, the humor is spot on, the casting is perfect. I cannot say anything more about it. If you haven't seen it, go watch it immediately, because it is a life changer. And some people think that's a joke opinion I have, just to be funny, but I legitimately think it's perfect. There are a few opinions on that list that I'm going to have just because I think it's funny. But this one, I promise you, is legit. There we go, nice and centered. And the last movie on this list, which is number 530, might be stupid to have this column, actually. Get out of here. 530 on this list, and it's going to be the second cell for now, is the movie Midsommar. The 2019 horror movie is objectively the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. It's the closest I've come to walking out of a movie. The guy sitting the row behind me in the middle of it stood up and he shouted, "You have to be effed up to enjoy this stuff." And he stormed out with about a whole row of people. And I agreed with him. But as someone who really enjoys the movie-going experience, I didn't want to disrupt it, and I stayed in my seat until the very end. It's just gross. I understand that if you're a horror fan, that's something you might be into, but as someone who hates scary movies and hates gross movies and hates the art for art's sake kind of movie, it is just at the bottom of the list. I will not accept any arguments. So, we're now going to go chronologically from the oldest movie I've seen to the most recent movie I've seen. So going way back to 1939, The Wizard of Oz does fall somewhere in between the Lego Batman movie and Midsommar. It's definitely well above Midsommar, but it does not come close to the Lego Batman movie. Watched it a lot when I was a kid. It's on around like Thanksgiving time every year for some reason. Like I always remember when my family leaves at the end of Thanksgiving. That's like the thing we watch around 10, 11 o'clock at night. We catch a tail of it on TV. Not much to say about it. It's a classic. But it's just, it hasn't quite aged perfectly from a technical standpoint, but you can't deny how important it is. The next movie on the list is Casablanca, and I understand that it's a classic. Doesn't do it for me. Maybe it's just a genre movie I don't enjoy, but I find it incredibly boring. We watched it in a film class senior year of college, and I was kind of falling asleep, mostly because the room was warm, and it was dark, and it was probably 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And I didn't really want to be there. Another movie we watched in that same film class is a war film called Baton, kind of an obscure one, but was pretty enjoyable. If you've seen Star Wars Rogue One, it kind of plays out similarly to that, but obviously it's a little more historically accurate than Rogue One is. I don't want to spoil it too much. I will spoil a lot of these movies, but not this one in particular. And that'll slide in above Casablanca. Next on the list is probably one of the very few Hitchcock movies that are going to be on this list is Rope, which is not one of his more famous ones, but one I really like. It's shot in that style where it's meant to look like one continuous shot for the whole movie. Really cool movie about two guys who commit a murder and they host a dinner party with the body in the room to show how slick they are and that they can get away with it. It's going to slide in above Baton, below Wizard of Oz probably, because I have a little more sentimental value for the Wizard of Oz, and Rope something I've just watched recently and doesn't quite have that attachment yet. Singing in the Rain is next here, and I watched this for the first time during lockdown, needed a little pick-me-up, and if you enjoy musicals, movies, or just being happy in general, Singing in the Rain is the perfect movie. The humor surprisingly holds up for a movie that was made in the early 50s. A lot of things just because when they're old, the jokes get reused over the decades and it just kind of becomes, it seems played out. But Singing in the Rain still feels very fresh and original, and it has a lot of it's a fake story set in real movie history at a time when the silent era was ending and movies were beginning to have sound. And it's just a joy to watch. The soundtrack absolutely slaps. There's a reason why some of those songs are just known as songs outside of the movie. This one's probably going to stay close to the top of the list for the next 30 or so years of movie history as we go through. Can't believe I hadn't watched it until this point, but it really surprised me by being one of my favorites. And they tap dance a whole lot in that movie, which is something I didn't really care for, but now I think it's just an incredible feat. Similarly, I Love Melvin is another early 50s musical starring two of the people from Singing in the Rain, and it gets points just because it has roller skating tap dancing in it, which just as a concept, awesome. Kind of short. I think it only clocked in around 80 or 90 minutes, but I also watched that during lockdown. But it's a cute little movie, and it's going to slide in between Rope and Baton. Typing is hard with one hand. I think this scrolls. Yes, okay. 12 Angry Men. I think it's a play first. Yeah, it was really good, really tense. Not really into courtroom dramas or just straight dramas really in general, but there's no arguing the interesting character study that is 12 Angry Men. Also gets a lot done in a very short runtime, and like Rope is shot to look like it's one continuous shot. So that's going to slide in pretty close to the top of this list. I'm doing this so quickly that I'm going to probably screw up a few of these on the list here. But we'll put 12 Angry Men above Wizard of Oz, but below Singing in the Rain. North by Northwest, another Hitchcock movie. Don't really get why people are so into it. Props for having Mount Rushmore in it. Just a cool monument. The ending has one of the weirdest and cheesiest transitions you'll ever see in your entire life. It's an okay kind of mystery thriller, but I guess it's one of those things where it's been repeated and imitated so many times that it just kind of doesn't seem as revolutionary as it was at the time. Still overall not bad though, and it will end up towards the bottom of the list now, but with 500 movies to go, it'll probably end up towards the middle. I could have planned this. I'm doing this, by the way, the only way I know how, which is too little preparation and too high of expectations. This is the setup I have right now. Is my MacBook Air is running all of this, and I bought this microphone for $30 a couple weeks ago. This is probably not the ideal streaming setup, but this is more just for me to talk into the void for who knows how long. Psycho, classic horror, one of the few horror movies that I don't hate and watch through my fingers or under a blanket, mostly because it really isn't that scary so much anymore. And knowing I knew the twist at the end before I even watched it, just because it's that big of a movie and everyone talks about it. It's common knowledge. But, yeah, not bad. I've seen it a couple times. It's always on TV. Where would it go? Probably... We'll just slide it in right above North by Northwest. We'll keep the Hitchcocks close together. I'm going to say that's the end of the Hitchcock movies on this list, so... Jason and the Argonauts I watched in 6th grade social studies. Remembered none of it, but remembered that there was a big skeleton army at the end. And so as an adult, I've gone back to watch it recently. And it's pretty good fun. The claymation practical effects are really cool. And some of the early digital effects are not as cool. So it doesn't necessarily hold up. None of it looks real. I don't think it really is ever trying to convince anyone that it was real. But it is cool just as a piece of movie history and seeing how they did all that stuff back then. The claymation skeletons in particular are really awesome. That fight scene, again, doesn't look great by today's standards, but when you know about all the work that went into it and how meticulous they had to be, it really, really stands out. So ignore the star ratings at the bottom of this, because that's going to probably dispute these rankings somehow. But we'll put Jason and the Argonauts one above North by Northwest. This is a long one to type out, so I can't do it with one hand. I can't read what's next. Oh, Goldfinger. Okay, so did that message I hope that message. I just got text. Hope it popped up on screen. Goldfinger. James Bond's not my favorite. Old James Bond is even less so my favorite. Just really wasn't that interested into it. I get the character, I get his importance, and it's cool that he's been played by so many actors over so many years. But the spy genre is so done to death that even the James Bond movies feel generic. Definitely not a bad movie, but maybe not as cool as its historical significance would imply it is. So let's slide it in towards the bottom here. So there's a couple 60s Christmas specials. Just because Letterboxd counts them as movies, so I figured why not log them. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is not my favorite. But it is a classic, and we did have a little Rudolph stuffed doll that we put under our tree every Christmas. It's just charming. It's sweet. It's a Christmas special. It's not going to really change the world. But it's all right. Where would it go among these? Probably one above Goldfinger. It's kind of like comparing apples and oranges, some of these, but we're going to do it anyway. That's not how you spell reindeer. There he is. So that's the last one in the top row. Only like 3-4 pages of this to go. Sound of Music, one of the few Best Picture winners that I actually enjoy. It is a hefty movie, maybe longer than it needs to be. But I really do enjoy it. It's a classic. One of the first movie musicals I probably ever saw. And holds up pretty well. Let's throw it in right above Rope. I'm really interested to see how this list sorts itself out. Charlie Brown Christmas, another one that's not super prevalent around Christmas time in my house. Decent. I like how everyone kind of bullies Charlie Brown, but that's just him in general more so than this specific Christmas special. We will slide it in. Who's to say? This is going to sound really weird saying that the Charlie Brown Christmas special is better than Psycho, but we're going to say that. This one's a big one. Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the original 1966 animated TV Christmas special. My favorite Christmas special of all time. That song, I guess both of the big songs, are absolutely amazing. I love how You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch is just a 2.5 minute long roast. It's on some of my Spotify playlist year round. It slaps. And it's a really good adaptation of the book. The animation, though it definitely looks like it's older, still looks really great. And just the Grinch as a character, mad respect to him and all of his good work, stealing an entire village just out of by sheer will. So, the Grinch, above all of these early cinema history classics, the Grinch Stole Christmas animated TV special is going to beat almost all of them. Okay, back to real movies. The producers, I am not as big of a Mel Brooks fan as I thought I was going to be. I watched a couple of his movies over quarantine. It's definitely one of his better ones, but the humor just doesn't always hit for me. Not necessarily in a bad way, just in a like, this isn't super funny kind of way. So that's going to slide in more towards the bottom of the list here. The remake with Matthew Broderick is not going to be on this list. I didn't like this one enough to go check out a worse received remake. Planet of the Apes. Yeah. Really cool. Definitely doesn't look as good as it did back then. But the story is a classic. The twist ending is another one that's so ingrained in our culture that doesn't really surprise anyone anymore. But definitely would like to know what it was like to watch it for the first time again and kind of relive that shock. We're going to slide it. Let's put it here. And once we get towards the modern era, which is a long way away, the reboot trilogy will be here as well. Another classic that I get a lot of flack for not liking is 2001: A Space Odyssey. This is probably one of the most boring movies I've ever seen in my entire life. Overlong, really, what's the word? Really snotty, really condescending in the way it presents its ideas. I thought maybe I just wasn't getting it when I first watched it. So I went and I read up a lot on it and what it's supposed to mean and what it's all about. I still don't buy it. The only cool segment is, I guess, in the middle when the ship's computer goes crazy, but everything before and after that is an absolute slog. It's just a little too pretentious for me. So we'll put that with the other well-received movies that I hate towards the bottom. Bear with me as I try to spell Odyssey right. That's probably right. Frosty the Snowman, he's kind of an idiot. Just as a character. Don't like it. Not a great Christmas special. Not even really a Christmas special. It doesn't have much to do with Christmas. Just more so about winter. So I don't know why it's roped in with all the other ones, but no good. The Aristocats. Is this the first Disney movie on here? Could possibly be. Yeah, the Aristocats, on the merit of that song, Everybody Wants to Be a Cat Alone, which is an absolute banger, um, is one of my favorite Disney movies. Maybe it's just because I am a cat person more so than a dog person. Um, but yeah, really cute. It's more underrated, obscure Disney. Definitely not one of the heavy hitters, but a classic in its own right. We will throw it towards the top for now. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Um, Certainly better than the remake. Not one of my favorite movies as a kid growing up. I don't know why. I know a lot of people were creeped out as a kid, especially by like that tunnel scene. I wasn't creeped out by it. I just wasn't super interested in it. And I guess that lack of attachment when I was a kid meant that as I got older, I kind of cared less. Um, but I mean, still charming for a kids movie. Holds up pretty well. Um, Certainly nothing wrong with it. Just not one of my all-time favorites. We'll throw it in here. So this past quarantine, I decided to watch both the Godfather movies. I'll save my Godfather 2 opinions for when we get there. But Godfather 1's all right. Um, Again, I'm not a huge drama person, and I thought I would be really into gangster movies, but I've slowly found out that maybe I'm not. Um, but The Godfather 2 is really solid. I think James Caan as Sonny is probably the highlight of that movie, which is maybe why I like the second one less. Um, but yeah, I mean, I could see if you're kind of a snotty artsy awards person why that would win Best Picture. Um, but not an instant classic for me. Well made, good performances, but not a bop. We'll put it there. Paper Moon. I watched a lot of movies when we were in lockdown. Paper Moon I watched over this summer. Really cute story. Probably something that people don't know as much. Um, about a father and maybe his daughter scheming their way across America and conning unsuspecting people. I love a good con. In terms of crime movies, not a big fan of gangsters, but a big fan of swindlers and hustlers. So Paper Moon, just for being a con movie and for having a really great father-daughter relationship and being really funny with it, um, is going to slide in closer to the top of the list. Is that even the top of the list anymore? I guess it's the middle. Yeah, The Exorcist, another classic that I hate. I hate horror movies, therefore I hated this movie. Definitely not as gross as Midsummer is, but still kind of gross. And I wouldn't say it's really all that scary. I know a lot of horror doesn't seem scary nowadays because of we're not as easily fooled by effects, but I have a hard time believing even back then it would have been all that terrifying. Just kind of weird. Um, I will slide it above Space Odyssey just because it's not as pretentious. Yeah, so here's what I'm saying about not being a huge Mel Brooks fan. Blazing Saddles didn't really do it for me. I think it's because I haven't really seen a lot of westerns. I've really only seen parts of some in a film class I took senior year of college that I fell asleep during a lot of them. So probably it's one of those things where at the time where westerns were big and it really tore them apart, would have blown some minds. But for me, as a modern moviegoer who hasn't really seen too many westerns, it just doesn't hit quite the same. So beats Frosty the Snowman though. Young Frankenstein, probably my second favorite Mel Brooks movie. The humor is a little more timeless and definitely doesn't rely on Western tropes like Blazing Saddles does, or I guess horror tropes in this case. So it's gonna be up a little higher on the list. Again, for some reason that sense of humor doesn't stick with me too much, but still a good parody. I don't know where I'm gonna put this. This is probably fine. Okay, The Godfather Part 2. Yeah, it's garbage. I don't get it. It's like 3.5 hours long. Every minute of it sucks. It feels like they took two movies, the young Robert De Niro movie and the old Al Pacino movie, and they were like, well, if we make these one movie, it'll be really long, and then we'll win awards for making a movie that's long. And I guess there is some metaphorical overlap between the two, but neither story's really that interesting, and I don't really want to expunge the brain power to figure out how it's all connected. And I really don't think the young Vito Corleone story is all that interesting. It's like, how did he become the Godfather? One day he just started doing it. Was the point of the movie? Maybe I missed something. But too long, too boring. Not interested. Get to the bottom of the list. We'll put it just above Casablanca. Roman numerals for that one, not just part 2, part II. Jaws. So this is, I guess we're kind of getting into not necessarily modern, but movies that people watch a lot more these days. Jaws. There's exactly one scene in Jaws that still scares me and has nothing to do with the shark. It's when they go deep diving, or not deep diving, but they go diving to find if there's the wreck of a boat that got hit by the shark, and a severed head rolls out of the boat, and it's a little jump scare, and it gets me every time, and I know it's coming, and I still have to turn away. But overall, the three leads hold it together. Their relationship is really fun. Seeing the three men on the boat get increasingly desperate is really fun. Again, not as scary as it once was probably, but still makes me think twice about going in the ocean. So we'll throw it. Perhaps the first modern blockbuster. We'll throw it up here. We'll do a little like drinking ASMR as well. You guys can hear me swallow. You can hear the ice clinking in the cup. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I think this was a Best Picture winner. One of the Best Picture winners that I was like indifferent on. It's fine. We're going to get to a point where I get to movies that I didn't really have a strong opinion on. I just go, it was fine, and throw it somewhere on the list. Just know that internally I've thought about these a lot. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. We'll slide it just above A Charlie Brown Christmas. A classic twin billing. Bad News Bears, I think, is hysterical. Definitely would not fly as a kid's movie today, just for the sheer amount of underage drinking that occurs in it. But really funny. I do love me a good baseball movie. So we'll put it right by Paper Moon. Rocky is fine. I know a lot of people are really into it. Yeah, he's an underdog you root for. But again, just these straight dramas, even sports dramas, don't quite do it for me. It's a perfect character for Sylvester Stallone and his limited acting range. I enjoy it. Not trying to sound like I'm getting down on it, but Definitely not one of my favorites. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah, now we get to some heavy hitters here. Star Wars, huge Star Wars fan growing up, mostly Lego Star Wars, but I guess that translated into the real movies eventually. Um, yeah, it's great. Um, there's a reason people still watch these movies today. I don't think I can say anything about Star Wars that hasn't been said by 100 million people on the internet over and over again. So we'll just throw it on the list and move on. We'll put in the subtitles for these, because otherwise it would just be Star Wars over and over again. Yeah, it's not at the top of the list. Um, there are better movies out there. I'm not totally blindsided by Star Wars. Back to Christmas specials. Halloween is Grinch Night, for whatever reason, won an Emmy. Um, I watched this because the original Grinch special was not on TV. It's only on TV like once a year, and I guess I missed it. And so they were selling for rent a Grinch Ultimate Edition, which included 3 Grinch TV specials. Of course, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and the second one was Halloween is Grinch Night. I assume aired around Halloween. It is mostly very boring. There is one crazy, like, drug infused musical sequence. I would recommend just watching that, and I assume that's what it's won the Emmy for. And that part is absolutely crazy, but everything before that is pretty standard kids TV special stuff that as an adult I would not recommend watching. Honestly, as a kid, probably wouldn't even recommend watching. It's not that interesting. The Grinch doesn't really steal anything, which is probably the most exciting part of his character, and it doesn't really make clear if this is pre or post Christmas, so we don't know if he's a changed man or not. And I don't think this is a book either, so I really didn't know what to do without source material. It's a very real Game of Thrones situation there. We'll put it above Frosty, though. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is one of those B movies that people just watch because they're so bad they're good. I think this was intentionally supposed to be bad. Um, it's just a really funny concept, and it's clearly low budget, but it's also surprisingly a musical. And every time you forget that it's a musical, they throw another musical number in there. Um, would recommend watching with a group of people who you enjoy heckling movies with. It's definitely not something you need to sit through and pay attention and study the deeper meaning of, but it is a fun time. Next, we got Superman 1978. I want to say it is. Yeah, there it is, 1978. This is classic Superman. This is the original Superman movie. Definitely my favorite Superman movie. I haven't gone to watch any of the sequels just because they don't really hold up as well. And I don't think the sequels are as well regarded as the original is. But it is definitely like the first and classic big budget superhero movie, and it holds up pretty well. There's one scene where Superman and Lois are flying, and you hear Lois's internal monologue, and it's really cheesy, and I'm sure way back when it was endearing and cool, but just based on how movies have changed and what we watch now, it doesn't quite hold up. But just on Christopher Reeve's performance alone, and also Margot Kidder, who played Lois, and Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, all 3 of them were just absolutely incredible and perfectly cast. And they really pull this movie together. It is a little over long, I would say. It does cover a lot of ground, and I appreciate what they're trying to do by making a sort of superhero epic with that runtime. And it mostly works, but again, now that superhero movies are usually at tight 2 hours with a few exceptions, watching one that's closer to 2.5 especially with the limited effects and action of the 70s, can feel a little boring at times. Sliding back over, the Muppet movie, the first thing I watched as soon as I got Disney Plus. Um, I've received many comparisons between me and Kermit the Frog, personality wise, movement wise, mannerisms wise. Um, I'll assume it's not a bad thing. I've been called much worse, but the Muppet movie is really funny. Big fan of Kermit the Frog, and the songs are classics. They are also on a lot of my Spotify playlists, which maybe they shouldn't be there as 23 years old, but still a good listen every now and then. The Muppet movie will go just above Planet of the Apes. I think it's the only Muppet movie I have on here. Um, not attached to the Muppets enough to go back and watch the Christmas specials and all the other Muppet movies they have going on. Rocky 2. A lot of the Rocky movies I feel pretty the same about. Cool for him that he wins this time, but it's just Rocky. Um, we'll drop it. We'll drop it here. Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, we're gonna scroll way up for this one. Very, very near perfect movie. Um, people are not wrong to say it is one of the best, if not the best, Star Wars movie. Made in the '80s, feels like you could play it in theaters today and people would receive it the same. And another movie where the twist at the end is so ingrained in our culture that we don't even consider it a twist anymore. And yet, despite the biggest thing about the movie being spoiled, we still go back and watch it. I think that says a lot. The Shining, in that rare category of horror movies that I don't hate. Um, Again, it's more psychological horror than it is jump scare and gross demons and monsters horror. Which is, if I'm gonna watch a horror movie, that's definitely what I'd prefer. Um, yeah, it's got some weird moments in it. Um, Particularly the moment with the guy in the bear suit that I'm still racking my brain to figure out why that exists and what it means. But we'll keep Jack Nicholson next to Jack Nicholson for now while we can. Xanadu, if you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen it and you need something to do on a Saturday night after you've had a few drinks with your friends, go watch Xanadu. Somehow there are two movies on this list that have roller skate tap dancing, and again, just that concept alone gets a lot of points in my book. I think it's meant to be a so bad it's good kind of movie that people watch ironically, but genuinely I enjoy it, from the music to the cast. Gene Kelly from Singing in the Rain is in it. Um, it's very 80s, but I would say in the best way possible. So we will slide it in the middle of the list. History of the World Part 1. Yeah, Mel Brooks. This one in particular I really didn't enjoy. The rest of them I was like, oh, there were a few chuckles in it, but this one really didn't hit. I like the concept of going through history and telling history from a comical perspective, but so for like they decide to stay in some eras too long, some not long enough, and the jokes kind of felt redundant just in their style. Um, the running joke is like, when's part 2 coming out? But I really don't care to see it. So we'll slide it just above The Godfather Part 2. Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm a big fan of Indiana Jones. Raiders of the Lost Ark is an adventure classic. set the stage for a lot of imitators. Really, it's Harrison Ford's, I think, favorite franchise he's worked on. Much he likes it a lot better than Star Wars. I think part of the deal that got him to come back for the recent Star Wars sequels was that they make another Indiana Jones movie, which not a problem for me. Um, yeah, it's just a really fun adventure movie. We'll slide it in between Star Warses here. So here's the third Grinch special that was a part of that Grinch Ultimate Edition package. It was the Grinch is the Cat in the Hat. I was looking forward to this one, a crossover between two literary titans. This is the Godzilla versus Kong of the whatever decade this was, if you will. And what a letdown. Same as the Halloween is Grinch night. It's maybe 15 minutes of just kind of generic kids cartoon, which I guess, yeah, fair, that's what it is. And then one really weird, colorful uh, musical sequence. And again, that sequence is awesome and interesting and really throws you for a loop, but the rest of it is probably not worth a watch. If you happen to buy the Grinch Ultimate Edition by mistake because you think you're renting just the Christmas Grinch, yeah, I guess stick around and watch these two, or just fast forward to the very end. But um, other than that, there's not much for you there. E.T. Um, I'd go so far to say as Steven Spielberg's one of my favorite directors because a lot of his movies are highly ranked on this list. Um, E.T. Is really heartwarming and endearing. I don't think it's something you can watch over and over again and still enjoy, but the maybe once a year it's on TV and I catch it, hasn't gone sour on me yet. But we will slide it in right below Superman. We're just going to do that because I can type that with one hand, and if I put in the periods, I will not be able to type with one hand. Oh, that's my place. Rocky 3, probably similar to Rocky 2. Um, we'll put it one notch below Rocky 2 because I think I like this one less. The Thing, horror movie. I shouldn't like it, but the practical creature effects get a lot of respect from me. Um, Other than that, the jump scares and the gross stuff doesn't really do it for me. But just out of respect for the props people alone, uh, I will think admirably of it. We'll throw it right above The Shining. Return of the Jedi, yeah, the weakest of the original Star Warses. Um, Still really great though. Probably, I want to say this is the one I watched the most as a kid, just because it was probably the most kid friendly with the Ewoks and unlike the Empire Strikes Back, ends on a positive note where the good guys win. And has some really great lightsaber fights and battles and things like that. Um, but from a technical standpoint, yeah, the nostalgia kind of washes away, and I'll admit that it's not the best. I'm gonna look like a fool for a second here. I'm gonna see if there's any chance someone put a message in the chat. Oh, oh, Grant's putting messages in the chat. I don't know if Grant's still here. Um, yeah, that's fine. Grant's just being rude in the chat. uh, I apologize. I don't know how to work this. I have the chats kind of like peeking in between windows for me now, so if I get any new messages, I'll see those. But everything else is just I missed. After Return of the Jedi, Christmas Story. Um, yeah, I think it's fair to have a 24-hour Christmas Story marathon every year over and over again because it is a good movie. Um, falls into that Bad News Bears category of things that would definitely not fly as a kids movie today, but we can look back on it endearingly because of when it was made. I really enjoy it. I really started watching it recently around Christmas time. I don't think I really saw it as a kid. But I don't think it really had that kind of popularity when I was growing up. But definitely really enjoy it these days. We'll throw it here. Don't know what I did there. We're gonna delete that row. We're gonna assume there was nothing there. I didn't delete anything on accident, but I probably did. We'll throw a Christmas Story in a little higher than I thought it was gonna. Footloose, on the premise alone, an incredible film. The soundtrack, which I didn't realize all the songs on the soundtrack for this movie were original songs for this movie. So mad respect for all the artists who put that much effort into a soundtrack for a movie where they decided to make dancing illegal. This movie, the musical adaptation of it, both awesome, both favorites of mine. And who doesn't love some Kevin Bacon? We will put it. We'll throw it right above Bad News Bears. Romancing the Stone is fine. I thought I would like it because it was said to have that kind of Indiana Jones adventure vibe. For me, doesn't really have that same energy. Still really good. Sorry, I clicked out of my window now. I'm scrambling to get back to it. Where's the box? There it is. Worth a watch if you're into Indiana Jones type movies, but don't expect anything as big and exciting as Indiana Jones. We'll slip it right above The Godfather. Yeah, I'd say Jason the Argonauts is a better adventure movie than this one. Temple of Doom, not the worst Indiana Jones film, but again, I think this was the one I watched the most as a kid because it had the least scary scene. The first one had the face melting scene. The third one had the guy getting really old really fast scene. And I guess the scariest scene in Temple of Doom is when they rip a guy's heart out, which for whatever reason didn't spook me as much as a kid as the other two. Definitely doesn't hold up great, but it's Indiana Jones. It's a good adventure. And it will go somewhere. Yeah. Gremlins slaps hard. I didn't realize how great the Gremlins theme was. Just kind of the score of that movie is awesome and really, really quirky and somehow a funny song. This movie is great. The puppeteering is great. Gizmo is adorable. It's a real fun concept, and if you want to call it a horror movie, you can call it a horror movie. In that case, I would say I do enjoy one horror movie. More so a Christmas movie for me, but really just a real fun time. Both Gremlins and its sequel, for different reasons, get a lot of praise from me. So we'll slide it right above Jaws. Ghostbusters, I like to say, is my favorite horror movie. even though it's primarily comedy and people are like, oh, it doesn't count, it's not scary, whatever. Yeah, just let me do my bit. Ghostbusters, really funny. Seen it plenty of times, still funny every time. Got my man Rick Moranis in it in a supporting role. Anything with him is incredible. It's a shame that any sequel or reboot attempt after this hasn't quite lived up to it. But ignoring those, Ghostbusters on its own, probably my favorite straight comedy. Where will it go? We'll put it... Yeah, we'll slide it up here. The Karate Kid, one of those movies where the hero is actually the villain of the story because in his final karate tournament he actually cheats. But that doesn't undo the heartwarming underdog story of the rest of the movie. Yeah, it's one of those. It's Karate Kid. It's fine. I enjoy it. Can't really knock it too much. Definitely not the greatest thing I've seen. Definitely not the worst thing I've seen. Nightmare on Elm Street I saw at a drive-in because I don't think I would have watched a horror movie, in a real theater with big sound and big screen that could scare me even more. But it was fine. Again, probably thought it was fine because I was watching it in the least scary way possible, which is on a screen that was many feet away and through a radio, so didn't quite have the same effect as I'm sure as it did for people who watched it when it first came out. But we'll put it somewhere on this list. Yeah. Nope. Yeah. Oh my god, it's 8 pages of this. I didn't realize how far we have to go. Back to the Future is one of my all-time favorites. Humor still holds up. The adventure still holds up. Yeah, it's a classic. I got to see it on Back to the Future Day, which is, I guess, more of a Back to the Future 2 thing, but when he goes to the future, wherever he goes in October 2015, they're playing in theaters as like a one-night special thing. And that was cool to get to see. But yeah, I mean, people talk about Back to the Future all the time. We'll slide it in right above Gremlins. Despite being born in the late 90s, a lot of the top 50 or so are going to be 80s movies. Rocky IV. He's back again. And this time it's a Cold War metaphor. Not so subtle metaphor, but still a Cold War metaphor. I do enjoy this one a little more than 2 and 3 and everything that's come after it. Definitely not Rocky 1 kind of material. I like when he chases the chicken in the snow. I think that was this one that kind of blurred together, but I think he chases the chicken in the snow in this one. We will put Rocky 3 right above Rudolph. That's Rocky 4. That's my bad. We need to go back. Top Gun. I don't know how we've gone this far without seeing Tom Cruise on this list, but Top Gun's decent. It's a classic dad movie, which I guess is a genre I kind of enjoy. Watch this in quarantine. Enjoy me trying to remember some of these movies I didn't have strong opinions on. It was pretty good. Thank you for my in-depth analysis. I took one film class in college, can you tell? Top Gun will slide in right above the Karate Kid. I feel like they have the same energy somehow. Big Trouble in Little China. This is one of the ones that I'm going to remember almost nothing about. That I can just remember the vibes I was feeling when I finished it. And those vibes were slightly better than Romancing the Stone, slightly worse than Jason and the Argonauts. Ferris Bueller. Yeah, I like this one a lot. I know people are always like, Ferris Bueller is a jerk, and he is a jerk, but he's a cool jerk. Listen, when you're 12, 13 years old, and he's 17, 18, he seems really cool, and probably that was the point of the movie, to make you want to be just like him. Not the greatest role model, but you definitely wanted to be able to play hooky and manipulate your friends like he does. Great 80s comedy, great to watch even these days, as someone, but it's not going to top all these other classics. We'll put it a notch above Star Wars. Labyrinth with David Bowie. Really cool creature and puppet effects. Other than that, kind of lackluster. Watched this one night in college. Don't remember much. But I remember decent vibes. We'll put it in here. Just for David Bowie. We'll put it there. Little Shop of Horrors. I understand that there are two endings to this movie. I watched what I think was the happy ending version. I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. The music isn't all that great. The giant plant is really cool and really funny, and I think his musical bits are really fun. And Rick Moranis, always incredible. But I don't think it really gels together all that well. We'll slide it right above Big Trouble in Little China. I think Grant has sent more messages in the chat. Oh no! Is the echo that bad? Oh well. This is more so for me to have a definitive and objectively correct ranking of all my movies. So, my apologies if it's echoing. I don't know how to fix it. Spaceballs, yeah, that's my favorite Mel Brooks movie. Maybe it's because of my affinity for Star Wars. Maybe it does for Star Wars what Blazing Saddles did for Westerns, kind of. Maybe that's a terrible comparison and an insult to anyone who enjoys watching Blazing Saddles, but I really like Spaceballs. I think it's really funny. Yeah, it's kind of 12-year-old boy humor at some points, but that's when I first watched it, so hit pretty good for me then. Oh, I spelled Young Frankenstein wrong. We'll go back to that. Dirty Dancing is just kind of like horny Footloose. I like it less. Music's not as fun. Characters aren't as cool. I think it's maybe trying a little too hard. It's gonna go closer towards the bottom here. I'll put it above Rocky too. Don't do that. There we go. The Princess Bride is incredible. It is really funny. Yeah, good stuff. I can't remember the last time I watched it. I can't remember off the top of my head too many of the jokes that really hit for me. But I do remember really enjoying it. I do remember the colorful characters being a highlight. We'll put it, we'll drop it right above Spaceballs. Beetlejuice is not as good as I remember it being. One of the better Tim Burton movies. There's a clear point in Tim Burton's career where I stopped liking the movie he makes. Beetlejuice is definitely before that point. If you've seen the recent musical adaptation, I think it's better, mostly because it has more Beetlejuice in it, whereas Beetlejuice is very scarce in the movie. Dark humor still works. The puppeteering for the big sand snakes is really awesome. But I think there's a lot of moments in between Beetlejuice showing up that aren't as great, and I think that you kind of block out when you remember this movie. But when you watch it again, you actually have to sit through them and you're like, oh, maybe this isn't super interesting. Yeah, this is where it's going to go. Grave of the Fireflies, I watched very recently. Heard a lot about how incredibly heartbreaking and serious it is. And it definitely is. I don't know if it hit those same emotional beats for me as strong as it did to other people, and I can't exactly tell you why. I don't know if it's the animation style or if it's just the way that this story is told. There's a few Studio Ghibli movies, including this, that I don't like as much as other people do, and I think it may just be because of the way they tell their stories. They're less typical three-act structures. They're less A to B narratives. There's a lot more just about the vibes than it is the actual story. And while it definitely is heartbreaking, it doesn't quite, for a short movie, it feels a lot longer than it is. And for whatever reason, it's just not quite the same for me. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Yeah, fun, cool. In terms of live action, computer animation hybrids, not my favorite on this list. Still an enjoyable time. We'll pop it in right here. Die Hard took me a long time to get to. I think I watched it maybe 2019, and I'm glad I did. A really good, straightforward, simple action movie. Great hero, great villains. One of those things that's been talked to death about how awesome it is, and I agree with most, if not all of it. Cinema Paradiso is an Italian film about how great the movies are and how awesome sitting in a theater with a bunch of strangers is, and all the imperfections and beauty that comes with it. I was recommended it because it's a movie about watching movies, and I enjoy watching movies. It's not the kind of movie you're gonna tear up and cry in, but it is a pretty emotional story about a guy's relationship with movies and movie theaters and people he's met at the movies. which is definitely big for me. We'll drop it in. We'll drop it in here. The Land Before Time, which apparently there are 14 Land Before Time movies. I've seen just the one. I don't know why the dinosaur genre is not bigger than it is, especially with the incredible success of Jurassic Park. I don't know why more people haven't jumped on this dinosaur train. But Land Before Time, it's a kids movie. Kind of dark for a kids movie at points. But at the end of the day, it is a kids movie. I liked it when I was younger. Can't say I'm going to go back and watch it anytime soon. We'll drop it right here. Okay, so we are finally going to hit the second page of Letterboxd. I thought there was 4 pages. There's 8. Maybe I'll speed up. Maybe I won't. I don't really have much else to do tonight. Okay. They Live. It's one of those We Live in a Society movies. It has some of my favorite ugly alien designs. Outside of that, and a pretty cool alley fight sequence. Maybe a little too heavy-handed with its messaging for me. I don't know if that's what it is, but still cool. Holds up pretty decently. But I would say, especially given the movies we have nowadays and how they handle those more controversial topics, maybe not the best vehicle for it. We'll drop it in above Rocky IV. The Naked Gun is really funny. Haven't watched sequels. Heard they're not as funny, so probably won't watch them. Has an extended comedy baseball sequence at the end, which is one of my favorite comedy sequences of all time. A lot of pun-based humor, which really works. A one-of-a-kind kind of movie. I know people know Leslie Nielsen more so from Airplane than from this. I watched maybe 10 minutes of Airplane and then turned it off. I don't think it was because I didn't want to watch it. I think it was because of other reasons. But from what I remember, I didn't really enjoy that. So it's not on this list because I haven't really seen the whole thing through. But The Naked Gun will go... I'll put it right above Melvin here. Rain Man, a rare Best Picture winner that I actually like. Tommy Cruise, Dustin Hoffman, really enjoyable. Really funny in some parts, really dramatic in others. We will drop it a notch above E.T. Can I type this with one hand? Yes. Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, like I said earlier, a couple people running cons, swindling unsuspecting people out of money. Good stuff. I understand there's a musical adaptation of it. Haven't seen it. Probably won't. But it's Steve Martin and Michael Caine, 2 people who I didn't think I needed to see together, but I have now seen together. And it's moderately funny. We'll drop it right here. Bill and Ted movies, I watched these both back to back before I watched the most recent one that came out this past summer. Cool. Mouse is not working anymore. Or my mouse has gone missing. That's fine. But yeah, Bill and Ted's pretty solid. It's a really interesting concept, time traveling and bringing all these historical figures together. I think there is another movie that does it better than this one does. But Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter, both very charming in these roles. I guess career defining for both of them and put them both on the map. So we'll put Bill and Ted, the first Bill and Ted. Yeah, we'll put it a notch above Temple of Doom. The Last Crusade is my favorite Indiana Jones movie. Definitely the funniest of the bunch. I think has the best action of the bunch. I think the horse chasing the tank sequence is really fun. I think everything inside, not sure of the plate, what it's technically called, but where the Holy Grail is really cool. And now as an adult, I can stomach the scene where the guy gets really old really fast. I really do enjoy watching it. And who knew Sean Connery could be so funny after being smooth guy James Bond for so many years? Sorry, I'm using a trackpad now instead of a mouse because the mouse died. No, now it's working. Who's to say? Last Crusade is going to go close to the top for me. It's also a pretty baller title. Dead Poets Society, I think, like most people, I watched it in high school English class. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Beep, boop, boop, boop. This is what it sounds like when I'm thinking. Just silence. Dead Poets Society will slide in right above Temple of Doom. Ghostbusters 2 is not Ghostbusters 1, and therefore not as good. Points for more Rick Moranis. That's about it. Batman in 1989. It's kind of in addition to Superman, one of the two movies that put superheroes on the map as blockbusters. Totally changed how people think of Batman. Crazy the jump between like the Adam West 60s version and the Michael Keaton 89 version. I would say, despite how good the Dark Knight movies are, this is my favorite Batman. Maybe because it is a little more sillier and comic booky than the others. But I think Michael Keaton is a better... I don't want to say that. But it is really good. If you haven't seen it and you enjoy the Dark Knight movies, I think you can watch it and enjoy it without stepping on the toes of Christian Bale. We'll put it... yeah. Back to the Future 2. The Back to the Future movies are kind of diminishing returns for me. It's still really good. It's still really funny. I just think that kind of the premise wears off because, again, it's just Marty McFly going to see his family in the past, his family in the future, and then his family in the way past. Despite a totally different timeline, different setting, feels kind of samey. But repeating Back to the Future isn't necessarily a bad thing considering how good the first one was. we'll drop it in here. I don't know when we as a society decided to start using number twos instead of Roman numerals for movie sequels. I feel like we use a lot more number twos these days. Back to the Future Part 3, yeah, not as good. Feels kind of out of left field because he goes to generation before, the generation after, and then he just decides to go to the Wild West. Kind of feels like this was meant to be a bigger franchise, as if they were going to do the Wild West, and maybe they do medieval times, and they do like far into the future in space. And I think if you had those follow-ups, it would have felt a little more in line. But it feels like kind of a black sheep in terms of the rest of the series. Not bad by any means, just my least favorite. We'll slide in there. Gremlins 2, I think just as the fact that this movie exists in the way that it does is really incredible. For those that don't know the story, is the director of Gremlins 1 was begged to come back for Gremlins 2. He really didn't want to. And they said, well, we'll give you tons of money. And he said, that's fine, but you have to let me do whatever I want. So they let him do whatever he wanted, and essentially he made a parody of Gremlins 1. Whereas Gremlins 1 is played, despite being a comedy, is played pretty straight. Gremlins 2 is just gags on gags on gags. Has some of the strangest and somehow incredible beats that I've ever seen. There's like an interlude somewhere in the middle of the movie where it breaks the fourth wall, and Hulk Hogan is there, and it's an incredible sequence that just it comes out of nowhere, and it feels like someone was just like, sounds kind of like a funny idea. Yeah, let's throw it in the script. But definitely would recommend watching. Watch Gremlins 1 first to give it a little bit more context. But yeah, Gremlins 2 is a really good time. We'll pop it above. Ooh. The scrolling is backwards on this mouse for whatever reason. We'll pop it above Back to the Future 3. I guess that's the point where we started using... Oh. Yes, they called second Gremlins 1. I guess that's the point where we started using numbers instead of Roman numerals. Neat. Goodfellas, I don't get it. Has the same kind of prestige as the Godfather movies do. Not sure why. It's fine. It's kind of cool. It doesn't make you like there are movies about criminals that make you want to be the person in that movie more than Goodfellas does. I think for a lot of people, these movies like, oh, I saw that, I want to be a gangster. That didn't really happen for me. I guess that's a good thing. We'll pop it in. I can't say between Rocky 2 and Rocky 3 because I really can't distinguish the two. So, yeah, that's fine. Home Alone is a Christmas classic. There is no arguing that. It is incredible. It is funny. Is it at all practical? Not in the slightest. But I enjoy watching it. It's definitely a multiple watch movie during the Christmas season. I think outside of A Christmas Story and maybe Alfred is the one that is on TV the most. An all-time favorite. It seems about right. Here's me putting Home Alone above Casablanca, The Godfather Part 2, and 2001: A Space Odyssey. Rocky 5. It's a Rocky movie. I can't say I remember anything about Rocky 5. I would be lying if I tried to recount the plot in the slightest. But we'll put it above Frosty the Snowman, because Frosty the Snowman is not good. Is this the one where he has a son? Silence of the Lambs is really good. Again, a horror movie that is more a psychological horror / thriller than it is a jump scare horror movie as we know horror movies today. It's pretty good. This was another Best Picture winner that I don't mind. But it is, at the end of the day, a drama, I would say, first and foremost, and that kind of didn't work for me so well. I think the two leads are great. I think Hannibal Lecter is a really fun and interesting character, but overall, it's not one of my favorites. I've kind of lost track of which number means it's one of my favorites, but Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, we'll put it here. The Rocketeer. If you've seen Captain America: The First Avenger and you like that, I would recommend watching The Rocketeer. It's that same. It's same director. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. That same kind of World War II pulp action hero kind of stuff. Not as great as Captain America: The First Avenger, but comes pretty close. 20 or so years prior. Yeah, it's a good watch. I really wonder how this comparative ranking is working out. I might find out that there's something I really don't like that just happened to slip to the top because it was early. The Rocketeer will go right above Bill and Ted. Terminator 2, Terminator 1, I guess, should be on this list, but I fell asleep when I was watching it because I really didn't like it. Terminator 2, I guess, considering I didn't fall asleep, is an improvement. People will call it their favorite movie of all time. They'll say it's the best action movie of all time. It's fine. I don't know if it's just the fact that the Terminator as a I don't want to say character, but as a monster doesn't do it for me. But of the few Terminator movies I've seen, I'd go as far to say as it's the best. But I can't say that the hype makes entirely sense to me. Bill and Ted, the second Bill and Ted. I would say I like this one a little bit better just because the Grim Reaper's in it. I think he's really funny. It's kind of weird how the first one was all about time travel, and you think, oh, this is what the whole franchise is about time travel. And the second one is, no more time travel, they go to hell. I guess that kind of, wouldn't call it a tonal shift, but that kind of concept shift was weird to me. But I think the presence of the Grim Reaper more than makes up for it. I'm glad he came back for the third one. And we'll put Bill and Ted 2 slightly above Bill and Ted 1. Samurai Cop is one of those it's so bad it's good kind of movies. Just terrible acting, terrible writing, terrible action, terrible special effects, terrible editing, terrible everything. But in a way that's it seems like they're making an effort to make a movie. And I think that's when those so bad it's good movies are the funniest, is when the people behind it think they are making something good. Um, Not the best so bad it's good movie on this list at all. But it's again, you have a couple good friends, you have a couple drinks, it's an enjoyable time. My Cousin Vinny is pretty funny. Outside of, I guess, Goodfellas, Joe Pesci is really funny. Yeah, not much to say here, except the mouse died again. So, we'll slide it right here. Batman Returns. Some people like it better than the original Batman 1989 because it's kind of darker and more mature. I don't really care that as much for it. It's still really good. I wouldn't say it beats all of the Dark Knight movies, but I do like me some Danny DeVito. Um, but we'll put it. Yeah, we'll put it here. A League of Their Own. Listen, it's a baseball movie. Um, A League of Their Own is really funny, and it is a really interesting story about the women's baseball league when a lot of men who played professional baseball went off to fight in World War II, and they needed something to keep people entertained. Um, and I think all the characters are really charming and incredible. Um, and it's hard not to be romantic about baseball, as the saying goes. Um, so this one's gonna get pretty close to the top of the list for me. Home Alone 2 falls into the category of it's not the first one, so it's worse. Um, I appreciate them trying to do something slightly different, but at the end of the day, it's doesn't quite work the same. Um, it's a concept that I can really only work once. And when you repeat it, it's feels better just watch the original. Maybe not that far low. We'll go that far low. There it is. Scooting back over. Groundhog Day has been repeated in several different genres as of recently. Um, and honestly, I think some of the knockoff Groundhog Days have worked better than Groundhog Day. Um, Not to say Groundhog Day is bad. I think Bill Murray in general is really funny, but of all the ways to do this story of being stuck in a time loop, this is probably the easiest. Um, but props to bringing awareness to Groundhog Day, I guess. The Sandlot. Yeah, listen. I know I said that I will always love a baseball movie, um, and I do like this one. Maybe not as much as other people though. I guess it's more of a kid oriented baseball movie, and for that reason, watching it now doesn't quite feel the same. but still really charming. And I'll pop it. I'll pop it somewhere in here. If I can spell. Jurassic Park is going up there. Um, like I said, I don't know why more movies haven't tried to do dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are really cool. They will always be really cool. I don't care if you're a kid, you're an adult, boy or girl. Dinosaurs are awesome. And this movie does dinosaurs better than anyone. Um, just from the Velociraptors to the T Rex to Newman from Seinfeld, a bop. Um, I got a chance to see it in theaters recently because when were no new releases, they were doing a lot of classics in theaters for $5, and I jumped at the chance to go see Jurassic Park. And I'm glad I did. Next one's Nightmare Before Christmas, which when I was younger I kind of wrote off because I was like, oh, this is edgy, hot topic kind of kid stuff. Like it's for people who are people who for the we live in a society crowd, the I relate to the Joker 2019 crowd kind of movie is what I thought Night Before Christmas was. And I went back and watched it, I want to say around Christmas time, fittingly, and I was dead wrong about it. It's a really well animated, the music slaps really hard, and I'm not wrong about many things ever. I would go as far to say as I'm always right about things. But I misjudged Nightmare Before Christmas, and I'm really glad that I watched it. Jack Skellington, Oogie Boogie, two Halloween icons. Maybe so powerful as Halloween icons that they could be considered Christmas icons as well. Um, but this is still falls into the category. This isn't a Tim Burton directed, but it's Tim Burton produced. Falls into the category of Tim Burton things that I enjoy before he really went off the rails and got weird for no reason. Um, it's not perfect. It's um, it's one of those things that there's in between the big musical numbers and the really cool stuff. There is kind of some sag, but more than makes up for it. And we'll drop it. Tim Burton with Tim Burton right before Nightmare Before Christmas. Mrs. Doubtfire is pretty funny. I can't say it really had any sort of lasting impression on my life. One of those ones that's always on TV, and always glad to watch a few minutes of it here and there. There are rumors of an R-rated or even as far as an NC-17 cut of this movie that exists because of all of Robin Williams' improv. And I think I would really enjoy to see that. Um, but as it currently exists, Mrs. Doubtfire is all right. The Lion King. Yeah, I'm Ellison. Lion King's great. I would say that is near unanimous. Um, I think Scar is my favorite Disney villain of all time. Um, Despite being, people say it's a knockoff of Hamlet. It's far better than Hamlet, which from my memory of reading it in high school English class, did not enjoy. I haven't seen the quote unquote live action remake of this. I assume it's far worse, and I don't care for it. No reason to watch that when this is so good. And Lion King will go right here. Forrest Gump. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good. Kind of one of those things where you watch once and you really enjoy it, and then you kind of watch it more and you kind of get sick of it, and then you kind of realize some flaws with it, and I've kind of stopped watching it because I think the more I watch it, the more annoyed I'll get with it. Um, Still enjoyable. A Best Picture winner that I don't hate, for sure. Um, and it'll go right in here. Here's one that I get some flack for. Pulp Fiction is a garbage movie. Most Tarantino movies are garbage movies. He's a garbage person, and I stand by that. Um, I don't get Pulp Fiction. I just don't. It's not. It's not funny. It's not compelling. It's not interesting. I don't know what it's supposed to be, and it's way too long for something that isn't at all interesting. Um, I would argue among some of the most trash movies I've seen, including all of these award winners. um, I'll throw it in maybe around here. Sorry, don't like it. The Santa Claus, I think deserves a little more credit as a Christmas classic. It's just genuinely funny and heartwarming. Um, the idea of murdering Santa Claus to become Santa Claus presents a lot of interesting possibilities. I think you could make a lot of different movies in this universe of various tones. Um, from a Christmas comedy to a murder mystery horror movie. Um, yeah, it's a good time. Um, we'll pop it. Again, the scrolling is backwards, so I don't know if I'm going up or down. Yeah, we'll put it here. Braveheart, watched it, hoping I would like it. Braveheart is not that good. Um, Braveheart it's one of those overlong, very boring. Uh, Hi, Michael, saying hello to Grant. Lego Batman's at the top, Michael. That was the first thing I mentioned. Um, it's gonna be number one. Nothing's gonna top. Nothing's gonna top Lego Batman. Don't worry. Um, but Braveheart is not in the slightest interesting, compelling, moving, funny. That it's got some decent action. It has a terrible Mel Gibson Scottish accent. I don't know. A lot of these kind of like 3 hour long quote unquote epics don't work for me. Maybe because there's too much drama in between the big action sequences. But we'll put Braveheart. Yeah. I gotta scoot over. Batman Forever, we get into the era of not so good Batman movies. It's a movie. It exists. Jim Carrey does his best. Val Kilmer does his best. Tommy Lee Jones does his best. It's just not. It doesn't work. I'm not quite sure why they went in this campy direction. I've heard it was supposed to be more serious. Michael, if you want to know why Blazing Saddles was so low, it's just because it doesn't do it for me. I didn't watch westerns growing up, so it didn't really blow my mind as it did way back when. Um, but it is what it is, and it's not for me. Um, Batman Forever, back to that. Um, it's just a weird direction to take a franchise that was successful for being darker and more serious and more adult, and to take it in that campy direction was just an odd choice. But yeah, let's put it above these couple Rocky films. Uh, Apollo 13 is a banger. I love you too, Michael. Thank you for this constructive argument we're having. I also think there's a delay between chat and me recording, so I'm not seeing these until after your messages. But appreciate the love. Miss you, buddy. Apollo 13 is really good. I think this lost is whatever it lost to for Best Picture. It should not have lost to for Best Picture, because I really like Apollo 13. I don't know how accurate it is to true events, but the fact that something even remotely similar to this happened is absolutely incredible. Not as good as The Lion King, though. Toy Story. Yeah, before Toy Story went off the rails and became a garbage franchise. The first Toy Story, I don't know how recently you guys have watched it. Um, and I understand the animation at the time was something that has never been done before. A fully computer animated movie was revolutionary. It does not look good in 2021. Um, it doesn't take away from the fact that it's a really great story, really great characters, and still really funny, but it is a little tougher to stomach these days. Um, by no means saying it's a bad movie, but maybe not as good as we remember it when it first came out. I mean, it came out in '95, so it was before I was born. But when I watched it as a kid, um, but we'll put it a notch below E.T. GoldenEye, I said way back when, and now I'm looking at the clock, and that was like an hour and a half ago. Um, GoldenEye, James Bond, he not good. And his movies are not very good either. I watched GoldenEye because, for the same reason I watched Goldfinger, where people are saying these are the best James Bond movies, that if you watch any of them, you should watch these. And I don't know why. GoldenEye is just kind of, it feels generic. Even by 90s standards, it feels generic. For the spy genre, it feels generic. But I honestly can't tell if it's better than Rocky 2 or not. We'll say it is. It gets points for Sean Bean dying. Mission Impossible. So, I big fan of Mission Impossible. Add respect for any sort of practical, real stunt work, and Tom Cruise is a master at that. This is probably the least crazy in terms of stunts, but he does do some death-defying running away from a tidal wave. Not a tidal wave, but a big flood of water from a fish tank. That could have seriously injured him, and he still did it because he wanted to get a shot of his face running away from it, which you can't do with a stuntman. I could talk about Mission Impossible for 100,000 years, because I think just the fact that they are so old school in their filmmaking style is incredible. And the fact that in an era where the world's biggest movie star could stand in front of a green screen and do these stunts, and it could look pretty convincing, that Tom Cruise still decides to do all of these things in real life is just... he's a crazy person, but you got to give him some degree of admiration for that. Space Jam. Listen, basketball movies don't hit as hard as baseball movies do for me. And the Looney Tunes maybe don't hit as hard as the Muppets, but Space Jam is decent. I watched it for the first time. I don't remember seeing it as a kid. Maybe I did watch it. Like I went to swim camp for one summer, and maybe I watched it then on a rainy day. But as for what my memory serves me, I watched it for the first time as an adult, and it's a cool concept. It's a lot of fun, but it's nothing game changing. It's fine, and I'm sorry that I don't think it's more than fine because I think I would have liked to like it more than I do. Um, but yeah, it'll go down here. Just I want to see how close I am to being done with this. I'm nowhere near done. I have 113 out of 530. Very cool. Um, Jingle All the Way. Don't know why people hate this. It's it's bad, but in an enjoyable way. Um, I don't think anyone was ever meant to buy Arnold Schwarzenegger as a regular, average Joe dad kind of guy. Um, and a wild Jake Lloyd pre Star Wars appearance, a wild Jake Lloyd appearance, period. Um, I think he retired from acting immediately after Star Wars. Um, but it's really funny in the sense that like Arnold Schwarzenegger is clearly a fish out of water in this role, and it makes no sense why he's playing this man. And I think the movie kind of runs with that idea in a way that's not terrible. Uh, it definitely deserves more recognition as a Christmas movie, as a movie point blank. Yeah, it's not great, but what are you gonna do? Yoinkle. Jerry Maguire. I want to say it's technically a football movie. um, Tom Cruise plays a sports agent. I think his one client is a football player. Um, but throw out all that out the window because there is Tom Cruise's girlfriend's son. I want to say he is the kid in this movie who's also in the Stuart Little movies. Um, he steals the show easily. This is probably the funniest child actor I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't think he's gone on to do much since then, besides the Stuart Little movies. Um, but he was really good and definitely somehow stole the show from Tom Cruise himself. Not to say that Tom Cruise was bad in this movie. He was his charismatic self. Um, a rare drama. Just gritted my teeth. A rare drama that I do not hate. Um, and it will slide somewhere among. I guess this is the bottom half for now, because we haven't gotten to the mid 2000s movies I watched as a kid that are actually garbage. Um, Jerry Maguire will go. Yeah. Yeah, here's where it's going to go. Mars Attacks into that category of movies that Tim Burton made before I didn't like the movies he made anymore. I think, period, this is my favorite alien design by far. They are somehow horrendously ugly and yet somehow slightly cute. And I don't know why. Um, the fact that this movie exists with like tons of A-list actors who just get absolutely obliterated. Um, it's 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 really good, and um, Yeah, I would recommend watching it. It just for the cameos alone, it'll surprise you who's in this movie, and it'll surprise you even more who gets blown up in this movie. Because definitely nobody is safe, and it'll surprise you even more who survives in the end. Um, we will pop it. This is for sure the better half now. Um, I watched Austin Powers for the first time 2 weeks ago. I don't get it. It's not. It's not funny. Um, I mean, there are some bits that are funny, but for the most part, there's the sequence where he is unfrozen after 30 years and he takes a very long pee, and yeah, like every time you think he's done peeing, he starts peeing again, and it goes on for what feels like an hour. It's probably a minute and a half. And people think that's the funniest thing in the whole world. I don't think it is. I think the only funny parts of this movie involve Doctor Evil. Um, Austin Powers himself is just it just doesn't hit. I don't know why. Don't know why this is considered a comedy classic. Haven't watched the sequels because I didn't like the first one. Um, Surprises me how far down The Godfather is on this list. We will put Austin Powers above. No, we'll put him here. We'll put him here. We'll put him here. Jurassic Park 2, Vince Vaughn Jurassic Park. Um, yeah, I listen. Like I said, I will give dinosaurs a pass for just about anything, but this one doesn't. This one doesn't really work. Um, it kind of does like a King Kong thing where they bring the dinosaur back to I want to say it's California, um, and then of course what you would expect ensues. It's just it. I don't know. It also does this weird thing where it puts. I have typed Jurassic Park: The Lost World, but I think on the poster it's The Lost World Jurassic Park, where it puts the subtitle before the title. Okay. Um, Batman and Robin. Yeah, it's bad. People will say, "Oh, it's so bad, it's good." It's not. It's just bad. Um, but we will put it a notch above. Mm, we'll put him here. Yeah, that's right. I know how to use an ampersand when I type. Um, Hercules, underrated Disney. I think the music and Hades are what really stand out about this. I'm excited for the live action adaptation because I think they could really add something to it. Being in live action the same way they did Aladdin, which might be a hot take, but I didn't hate the live action Aladdin. Um, I think this kind of falls into that. Isn't isn't a big enough Disney property that if they mess it up, people would be upset, but isn't too small that people wouldn't be interested in seeing it. Um, Scrolling up is down. Sorry. We will put Hercules above. Yes, you go here. Men in Black is a really cool concept. Will Smith, maybe it's not cool to like Will Smith these days because he's been around so long. I like Will Smith. Um, I think he's just generally charming and funny kind of guy. Um, so we'll give him we'll give him a little bit of credit, and we'll put him above Space Jam.
back. Oh man. Titanic, bad film. I would say absolute garbage. Generally, I like Leonardo DiCaprio. I do not like this movie. Um, it's too long to the point where they had to sell it as two separate VHS tapes when it came out, and it's too boring. I don't think it is at all a great love story. Um, I think that the part where once the boat actually starts sinking and you see people struggling and fighting for their lives, it gets really at that point it gets interesting. But everything before that is so boring and so unnecessary. And you watch a movie called Titanic and you think it's going to be about the boat, but they make it about these two people who didn't exist. Um, and for that reason, it's not worth being as long as it does. Maybe I just don't like James Cameron and his movies. But Titanic is not good. To the point where it'll go just above The Exorcist. Whew. The Truman Show, again, I feel like a lot of people watch this in high school English. Um, Bye, Michael. See you hopefully sometime. Yeah, The Truman Show is pretty good. Um, I think it's one of the things where people talk about it being good so much that you almost are disappointed by it because you wish it was better. Um, but still interesting, still worth a watch. Bleep bloop bloop. We're gonna scroll up. We'll put the Truman Show. Oh man, we gotta put it above the Land Before Time. We'll pop it here. Saving Private Ryan. Wish I had watched it sooner. Probably my favorite war movie. And will not call Captain America a World War II movie because it did not factually happen. Um, but Saving Private Ryan, just the opening sequence alone is absolutely incredible. Is so brutal, and yet you can't look away because it's that well executed. Um, just a really good movie about how brutal war can be and how brave the people fighting these wars are. Um, it's really good. If you can't stomach like I don't want to say gore because it's I mean the opening sequence is very gory, but the movie is not. But if you can't handle very just heavy content, maybe give it a pass. And I have no idea how accurate it is to what actually happened that day. Um, but as a piece of entertainment, it is very compelling. Uh, and for that reason, it's going to go towards the top of this list. Weird to compare something as brutal as Saving Private Ryan to Tom Cruise running away from a fish tank. um, but we'll pop it in here. Prince of Egypt, I watched it the first time recently. I think it is an interesting movie because at the end of the day, it is an adaptation of a religious tale, but I think it's presented in a very non-religious way, which is interesting. It presents it more historically than it does biblically. Um, There's one song which I think it's the Plague song, which I really like in this movie. Um, and I think this was DreamWorks' first animated movie, or maybe their first one that got any sort of recognition. Um, and I do think it deserves more recognition because it is pretty good. I lost track of numbers and their meaning. Yeah, that seems like a spot. The Matrix, not good. Hot take, not good. um, uh, I don't know. I again, it might be one of those things where it's been imitated so many times since then that it's worn off and it's not good anymore. It's not as revolutionary as it was at the time. Um, I think the reason I don't like it is because everyone in this movie is incredibly sweaty, and for some reason I don't like watching sweaty people in movies. I understand it's probably more realistic for that, but I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. I've seen the bullet time so much in movies since then, and since I didn't watch this movie for the first time when it came out. Like bullet time wasn't the first time I've seen bullet time when I watched this movie, so it didn't feel as big of a deal to me. Um, but it's all right. Um, I'll put it here. We got the Mummy next. Um, these are the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies that come up first. It's good. Um, Probably the closest to an Indiana Jones copycat as we've gotten. Uh, Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz, incredible co-leads, and all the supporting cast is really great. It's very 90s special effects, and yeah, that's not the best, but it's. I think if you watch it knowing that it was made in the 90s, you're like, okay, this was the best they could do at the time. Um, I'm a sucker for straightforward action adventure movies, and I'm a sucker for The Mummy. It knows what it is, and it executes that very well. Mm, this seems right. Election? Oh man. It's for those that don't know, it's about a high school class president election, and the teacher who gets involved to an extent that he should not be involved in. Um, Moderately funny. Matthew Broderick's in it. He's always a delight to watch. But I can't. When I first watched it, I think I thought of it more highly than I think of it now. I don't think it left much of a lasting impression on me. Um, we can put it right. Mm, yeah, spelling is hard. The Phantom Menace. Hot take. Isn't that bad? I think it's gotten a lot more love in recent years. Um, I think when I started watching Star Wars, I watched them in episode order, not in the order they were released. So I think episode one was the first Star Wars movie I watched. I actually remember we rented it on Netflix, but back when they mailed DVDs to you. So I got Phantom Menace in the mail, and it was this very cool Darth Maul disc. Um, and sure, it's not the greatest movie, um, but I really enjoyed it. It was my introduction to Star Wars. Um, I think the action is really good. Yeah, maybe Kid Anakin is not the best actor. Maybe a lot of the acting isn't very good, but it's again having seen the most recent Star Wars movies and with the benefit of hindsight, this is really not that bad. Um, where it belongs on this list is tricky because it's not good, but it's got a lot of nostalgic value for me. Um, and I think it's better than a lot of what's come after it. This feels like an appropriate place for it to be. Yeah. No, it can go a little higher. You can go a little higher. Go a little higher. Can go a little higher until The Phantom Menace becomes the best movie of all time. Um, yeah. Moving on. The Iron Giant is another movie I watched for the first time recently. Don't know why it took me so long to get to it, but it's really good. Um, I think it's really funny because the whole movie, the main kid in this movie's name is Hogarth, which is a fake name. But the whole movie, I was like, who named their kid Hogarth? And then a character in the movie goes, who named their kid Hogarth? And I was like, that's it, it's me. I am represented in this movie. The Iron Giant is really good, and I think it's kind of crazy how dark it gets at a certain point. Again, to spoil the movie, they launch a nuclear missile at the Iron Giant, um, and there's a moment where all of the people in the city around the Iron Giant, they're like, let's get to bunkers, let's go hide. And one of the characters, he goes, there's no point, we're not gonna make it. And it's this very bleak, ominous moment, which is just it's incredible that it's in a primarily targeted for kids animated movie. Um, the Iron Giant is really good. And listen, I don't cry, but I nearly did when the Iron Giant sacrifices himself. It's good stuff. Is it Mission Impossible good? Not quite, but it's almost. Toy Story 2 definitely holds up a lot better than Toy Story 1 in terms of animation. Um, in terms of story, maybe not quite there. Um, and I don't know what that means for it in terms of overall quality. Um, I think I do. Hmm, they're gonna be close no matter where they end up. Um, the question is, do I have ET as a buffer in between them? I think I do. That feels right. There isn't a significant difference between the two, but there is a little bit of a difference. And I think Toy Story 2 has the edge. We'll see. These things are all subject to change. Galaxy Quest is really funny. I would argue a better parody of the Star Trek, Star Wars genre than Spaceballs is. Um, yeah, if you haven't seen it, go give it a watch. Especially if you're a sci-fi action fan, um, will knock your socks off. um, there's some really good characters, and a really interesting premise, which is uh, actors in a Star Trek type show who get sucked into those scenarios in real life when an alien race thinks that their show is stuff that they've actually done. They don't understand the concept of actors. So I'll put Galaxy Quest towards the top. High Fidelity is a movie I watched, I want to say just last week for the first time. So a hot and fresh take incoming. I really liked it up until you find out that the main character actually is a really terrible person. Because he kind of has that he's a jerk from the beginning of the movie, but in a way at the beginning you're like, oh, like he just had a rough time of it, and you kind of feel sympathetic for him. But then you find out he's done some very not good stuff, and it really knocks your opinion of the character. And when your opinion of the lead goes down, your opinion of the whole movie goes down, because he's the whole thing holding it together. So again, it takes a turn in the middle, which I really don't like. But overall is really good. Jack Black has a supporting role in it, which he's almost always very funny, and in this role in particular, he's really good. And I think the supporting cast makes up for the fact that, again, the lead is kind of a jerk. As for where it would go, this feels like an appropriate place. I'm also going to fix the spelling of Young Frankenstein while I'm here. Scooting back. Oh, I clicked the wrong window. Do not want to be in this window that I am in right now. There's that. And there's Letterboxd. Okay. On the off chance someone's in chat, I'll pull that up too. Scooting back. Gladiator. Man, I gave this a lot of stars on Letterboxd for whatever reason. Another, I compare this to Braveheart. Another quote unquote epic that isn't really as epic as it wants to be. It's definitely better than Braveheart. Is it best picture? Probably not. But it's mostly all right. I just think it doesn't need to be as long as it has to be. I think the only reason it gets as much attention as it does is because it is so long. We will put it closer to the bottom. Yeah, this seems right. Mission Impossible 2 is the worst Mission Impossible, but I don't mean that in a bad way. I think the worst Mission Impossible is still a movie that I enjoy watching. It is. It goes from being like a low budget spy thriller to being a big budget action blockbuster, and I don't think that necessarily worked. But not to say it isn't terrible. I think that of all the things Tom Cruise has done, this might be the craziest. There's a stunt towards the end of the movie where the villain lunges at Tom Cruise with a knife while he's laying on the ground, and it comes like within millimeters of his eye, to the point where it's brushing his eyelash. And that was done in real life. They had the actor tied to a cable, and when he put his full force into it and slammed down, again, within millimeters of Tom Cruise's real eye. Like, if the cable snapped, if they didn't measure it properly, if Tom Cruise was laying on a pebble that was bigger than they thought, it would have poked out his real eye. And yet they went and did it. That's nuts. So Mission Impossible 2, despite a very lackluster plot, despite, for the most part, underwhelming action, except motorcycle jousting and Tom Cruise almost getting stabbed in the eye. And despite being the worst Mission Impossible movie, is still a decent movie. It'll go here. We're hitting the 2000s now, which is kind of crazy town. X-Men, the first X-Men, is solid. I think it was a necessary step to get superhero movies from being kind of laughed at to being taken seriously. It is not a direct or perfect comic adaptation by any means, but it is solid, and I think I have to respect what it is. Yeah, it'll slot in right around here. Unbreakable. Eh. That's really all I have to say about it. It was a good watch. Can't say I have any motivation to watch it again or to watch any of its sequels. I think it almost would have played better if it was released now, because it's a kind of deconstruction of the superhero genre. But I think a little too early, because I think at this time superhero movies were kind of laughed at, and I think Unbreakable was weird to release then, because everyone was, it kind of makes a point of like, oh, superhero movies are silly, and yeah, everyone was like, yeah, we agree. So we'll throw it. I'll throw it here. The live action Grinch. Yeah, I think it was 2000 live action Grinch. It's not bad. It's far inferior to the TV special Grinch. I think it's silly to try and take a children's book and stretch it into a 2-hour movie. But it is still an enjoyable time. I think they really tried their hardest with this one. Jim Carrey, he's really funny in this. I just think it stretches a very thin narrative that is meant to be a 30-minute TV special and tries to stretch it to 2 hours. Maybe it's an hour and a half. Whatever it is. It stretches it too thin, and what they add to it, because they do add some subplots that aren't in the book or the TV special. I think what subplots they do add aren't all that good. But it's enjoyable to watch once, and every watch after that, if you had a few drinks, it's a good watch. Other than that, it doesn't have too much to offer. We'll slip it in. Yeah. Castaway is pretty good. Falls into that category of dramas that are good, but I wouldn't really care to watch too many times since then. This feels right. The Emperor's New Groove. Again, underrated. This is Disney, right? Disney, I'm pretty sure. Underrated Disney. I think it has a different sense of humor than most Disney movies do. I think that's what makes it really good. E. Do I put it? a notch above Superman. I think, oop, extra letter in there. When Disney tries things that are not typical Disney, it works very well. They should do it more often. The Mummy Returns, yeah, fair to say it's a step down from the first Mummy. I think it's a huge step down. Another case of the sequel was just a copy of the original, and that's not necessarily a terrible thing, but when you do the same thing over and over again, it just doesn't feel right. Shrek, big meme energy. Shrek is really good. I watched it after seeing a lot of typical fairy tale kids movies, so that whole going against the norm of the genre thing really did hit for me. And a lot has been said about Shrek and its sequels, and they are all pretty quality content. I'll throw Shrek up pretty high on the list. Yep. Jurassic Park 3 gets it's better than Jurassic Park 2, and so it gets more of a pass for just having dinosaurs in it. Yeah. Going back to Roman numerals. I feel bad talking about this one, but Spirited Away is not that great. I know for a lot of people it is the defining movie of their childhood. It is their favorite movie of all time. It is something they can watch whenever and feel really warm in the heart about it. But I don't get it. Again, I think it comes down to how Studio Ghibli tells their stories. I think the idea of a movie that is just vibes, no plot, isn't something that I'm super interested in. I think the animation is very creative. I think the animation is incredible. But I think the lack of a story really makes this a hard sell for me. And I've gotten to many an argument about Spirited Away and how it works. Just barely, again, on the strength of its animation and creativity alone, just barely crosses into the likable territory for me. And so it's gonna fall somewhere. Maybe around here. Less of a hot take. Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. Garbage. Bad movie. Not even close to the original Planet of the Apes. But it'll go. Yeah. Finally, we're at page 3. We're going to take a... Has it loaded? Okay, we found it. Osmosis Jones. It's fine. Crazy concept. Somehow very educational at the same time. Very average movie. And it'll go. This seems right to put it here. Zoolander is. I don't think it's supposed to be that funny. I don't think most people find it very funny, but I find it very funny. Somehow very stupid and very smart at the same time. Feels like a pretty good middle ground in between these two. Monsters Inc. is among my favorite Pixar's. We're gonna go scroll straight to the top on this one. But it was a smidge above Home Alone. Happiness of the Katakuris is a Japanese horror comedy musical movie. Gets respect for the sheer mashup of genres that it is. There are a few sequences that work very well. I think as a whole, the movie is pretty good, not great. But again, you have to respect how much it shot for. There's claymation, there's musicals, there's zombies. It's a lot going on at once, and I think it throws so much stuff at you so quickly that you can't help it. You get wrapped up in it. Yeah, feels right. Oh no! Now to talk about Harry Potter. The Harry Potter movies are fine. I understand that for a lot of people, it was the defining series of their childhood. It was okay. I think I definitely burned myself out on it because it was on TV all the time, and we had the DVDs, and we had the Lego video game adaptations, and it was everywhere. I think the fact that it was so prevalent burned it out for me. It's interesting because there like I've definitely seen Star Wars more. I've seen Mission Impossible more, and I haven't gotten burned out on those. But Harry Potter, I have. I can't tell you why. But we will find an appropriate place to put it. Because it's not bad at the end of the day. It's just a little too much. This feels right. Ocean's 11, I watched for the first time in quarantine. It's crimes. People doing crimes. People being good at crimes. People getting away with crimes. And it belongs close to the middle, wherever the middle may be. Despite being the science fiction fantasy fan that I am, it took me 23 years to watch Lord of the Rings. and they're pretty good. Um, boop, 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 boop. Yeah, I think Fellowship of the Ring is probably my least favorite of the three. It's not to say that it's bad. It's just, especially having seen them all, knowing where the story ends and where it goes, it feels a lot like set. It feels like the first act of a 3-act movie. But when you spend 3 hours watching that first act, you're like, why did I bother? Um, it's a lot of setup, and it's very good setup. It's very well executed. I just don't think it holds up the best upon rewatch. Because I have gone back and watched this trilogy since then, um, and I just feel like I can skip it because I know where everyone goes from here, and I don't feel the need to be introduced to them all again. So we'll put Fellowship of the Ring right here. Now for the big boys, for the heavy hitter, Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, an absolute icon of a film, spawned perhaps the greatest TV series known to man. Um, for a kids movie slash pilot for a Nickelodeon TV series, it's really good. Um, I think Jimmy Neutron had a uh, maybe it's too on the nose, but had a smarter sense of humor than most kids show did. Um, I think it holds up decently. Would I say go and watch this every day for the rest of your life? Probably not. It's one of the few movies I would ask to have if I was stranded on a desert island. Probably not, but it is good. It's funny. Um, I think for both kids and adults, there is something to enjoy. Where would I put it? Yes. We're gonna take a break because I have to go pee. Okay. I returned and I forgot where I left off. But so we're at Ice Age. Ice Age is really good. I think the sequels really diminish what it did because I think it's a real good story about three loners trying to band together and save a kid that they had no right to save. Um, it's weird the tonal shift between Ice Age and Ice Age 2 and however many sequels came after that. Um, but we had it on it's one of the rare movies we had on both VHS and DVD, and we watched it in the car many a times. Um, Ice Age would go somewhere in here. Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans. I think they're all pretty good. For number one, not as good as number two, but still really good. Getting full out Green Goblin is pretty good. Scrolling's getting hard. Boop. Yeah. Not much. Spider-Man's a hard one to place. And I'm getting tired. This might be a lot of me scrolling and thinking very importantly. Attack of the Clones is next. Attack of the Clones is my least favorite of the Star Wars prequels. Probably my least favorite of the Star Wars movies, period. It's just, it's bad. Like everything that was bad about the Phantom Menace, while it could be considered endearing in the Phantom Menace, became annoying in Attack of the Clones. Nobody talks like a normal person would talk. Nobody acts in a way a normal person would act, and yet we're all supposed to believe it. I really like Star Wars. I really don't like this movie, though. This feels like a good place to put it. Santa Claus 2. Indifferent. We're speed around some of these. Harry Potter, second Harry Potter. Could probably live without most of these Harry Potter movies. Better than Attack of the Clones. That's spelling for you. The Lord of the Rings. So the second Lord of the Rings is my favorite Lord of the Rings. Probably, no, definitely because of Treebeard. It's just an awesome character. The fact that almost call him J.K. Rowling. That's not right. J.R.R. Tolkien. The amount of effort he put into building this world, these characters, and these languages that just he constructed this all from the ground up, and it all works and meshes together and fits perfectly, and there's no gaps in continuity. And for all that thought and effort he put into it, he decided to name the tree with the beard. He decided to name this character Treebeard. That is what his brilliant mind came up with. It's the fantasy equivalent of The Empire Strikes Back. I will not say it's better than The Empire Strikes Back, but it is a different genre's take on it, and I think it does it very well. It's just that I like that genre. I like fantasy less than I would science fiction. Still really good, though. Catch Me If You Can is the epitome of movies about criminals who I really like. It's personal note, I direct the musical based on this movie. I read the book that the guy who this actual story is based on wrote, and the fact that this story is as true as it is absolutely incredible. Um, it's at the point where the true story that happened is even more ridiculous than the movie. That they had to take some of the more absurd plot points out to make it believable. It's just incredible. Catch Me If You Can is really good, just in terms like on the story alone. Then you add in the incredible performances, and uh, it's a true story that is perfect for Hollywood, and they really went and ran with it. Um, it's great. Huge drop to Daredevil. Um, I've seen both this version, the theatrical version, and the director's cut. People say the director's cut makes it a lot better. I can't say that it does. On the other hand, for an early 2000s superhero movie that is not terrible, X2 is great. Um, it still has the comic book shyness that X-Men 1 does, but just it's more confident as in itself as a franchise. Um, it takes steps into comic book storytelling, but not necessarily steps into comic book aesthetics. Uh, but for a superhero movie that came out in the early 2000s, it's really good. And I think this is the first use of the really the I want to say it's Danny Elfman X-Men theme, which is a really good piece of music. I don't really normally don't pay too much attention to music and movies. That's just how my brain works. Um, but some themes really stick with me, and X2's really did, and I'm glad that they reuse it in a couple movies going forward. It slots in among the best of the best. Finding Nemo, I was obsessed with Finding Nemo when it first came out. Um, in the nicest of ways, it does not hold up. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I overwatched it when I was younger, but it's just it feels not as compelling when you rewatch it. I don't know, but Finding Nemo just doesn't hit as hard. Maybe it's because I've grown up since then, and it doesn't. I'm not as scared of fish as I was back then. Um, it's still good. It's still one of the better Pixar movies. It's just I think it's aged the worst. Um, we'll put it here. Pop. The early 2000s Hulk, not very good. Marvel before Marvel was what it was today. The Room is, people will say it's so bad it's good, so I don't know what to think of it. No, The Room is good, top tier film, 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Just a really funny watch. It never fails to entertain. Um, the epitome of it's so bad it's good, and I think it never gets old. Weird to say, it's weird to have The Godfather Part 2 at the very bottom of this list and to have The Room so close to the top, and yet I will. I was never into Pirates of the Caribbean. I watched the first one because I've heard that was the best one, and they've been terrible since then, or not terrible, but not as good since then. And it was a good adventure movie. Pirates aren't as cool as other adventurers. I know it has a subtitle, but we're gonna. It's the only Pirates of the Caribbean on this list, so it's fine. School of Rock, I think it gets a lot of respect and admiration, but I think it deserves even more. I think it's among the best, but deserves to be among the even better. Um, it's funny, it's heartfelt, it's got a banging soundtrack. Um, this is I probably peak Jack Black, and I honestly think it was peak for all the kid actors in this movie because I think most of them retired from acting shortly after this. Uh, it's really good to watch at any time in whatever mood you're in at any age. It works. Um, yeah. Elf, a Christmas classic. Um, I think I rate this in the context of Christmas. I think I only consider it when I'm in a Christmas mood. I think if I watched it, April, May, I'm kind of like, it's fine. But I think I'm a little biased because I mostly watch it around Christmas. So it'll go. Mm, I don't know where it'll go. Ba-ba-da-ba-da. This is, again, the sound of me thinking. Yep. Okay. Now we get to. I said at the very beginning that some of these are meme opinions. This is one of them. Um, The Cat in the Hat is a flawless movie because I think it was Into the Spider-Verse where Miles he answers every question on a true false exam wrong, and they say the only reason you could have gotten all of these answers wrong is if you knew what all the right answers were and you picked the opposite. That's The Cat in the Hat. The only way you can make a movie like this is if you know how to make the perfect movie and you decide to make the opposite. So I am convinced that the people involved in this knew exactly what they had to do, and they chose to do the opposite. And it's incredible. This movie should not should not exist. It should not exist in the form it's in. It should not. There's no conceivable reason why anyone would think was a good idea, and yet they made it. So the only justification for this for me is that they knew that they were making the worst movie of all time, and they went for it. And I have to respect that commitment. I have to respect that that sense of humor. I have to respect that self-awareness. I think The Cat in the Hat is easily in the top 100. Could break the top 50 just because of how funny it is. Um, and we'll put it here for now, and we'll see where it ends up. It really hurts to put it there, but it belongs there. Um, Lord of the Rings, the third one, probably my middle favorite of the three. It's really good. It's basically 3 hours of payoff, and it's cathartic to watch. Um, but I think it really only works if you've watched the first two recently. And I think it does drag on a little too long. Of all the Best Picture winners I've watched, it's by far the best. Um, but I don't necessarily think that makes it the best movie. Um, a lot of really cool action beats and a lot of really cool character beats. But it's just, I think the length really hurts it. I think they could have wrapped this story up a lot better and a lot more quickly. And I think if this movie, instead of being 3.5 hours, if it was closer to just 3 hours, would have been really tight. The Last Samurai, I think, was an attempt to do a modern epic. Didn't really work that well. I don't think it's terrible. We'll put Tom Cruise in the same category as some other worst Tom Cruise movies. Big Fish. Yeah, again, still pre Tim Burton being terrible. It's really good. Listen, any movie about dads and sons is gonna hit me real hard. Um, I think this movie is really charming. I think it's got a really great lead in Ewan McGregor. I think it's got a really optimistic outlook on everything. Uh, an oddly not edgy Tim Burton movie. I think it belongs pretty high up on this list. Kung Fu Hustle was something that people told me falls into that so bad it's good category. I don't really think it quite does. I think it's almost too good to be so bad it's good. Uh, I I don't know. It's very silly. It can be funny. Yeah, the action can be kind of fun to watch. I just think as a whole, it maybe is a little too good to fall into that comical territory and not quite good enough to fall into that serious territory. So it'll fall around here. Let's be sleepy. Shrek 2. Yeah, we like Shrek 2. Um, is it better than Shrek the first Shrek? Yeah, it's better than Shrek the first Shrek. swoop over to the side. Oh, did I miss a couple here? I might have forgotten. Nope, I didn't forget to scroll. Oh, I did. I missed Looney Tunes Back in Action. I apologize. I watched Looney Tunes Back in Action for the first time last night. It was alright. In terms of live action animation hybrids, definitely towards the better of the bunch. I wouldn't say it's all that incredible. Feels appropriate to put it right in here. Okay, back to the normal order of the list. Harry Potter, let's say that's 3. Yeah, Prisoner of Azkaban. It's just diminishing returns for me with Harry Potter. I think it got less interesting as it went on. Or maybe again I just got burnt out as it went on. This works. That's the full title. Spider-Man 2, better than Spider-Man 1. Probably the best Spider-Man of all the Spider-Mans. Right here. Anchorman. Anchorman, I want to say, was the first adult comedy that I watched. Obviously, not when it first came out, but I think I was around a good age to watch it when the sequel was coming out. So to get hyped for the sequel, I watched the first one. It's pretty funny. I think it kind of says a lot, the fact that people will say it's so funny but don't talk about it really anymore. It says a lot about how good it is, in the sense that it's good, but it's not anything to write home about. But very quotable. Oh, the Catwoman movie, it's not good. Yes. Collateral, pretty good. A rare Tom Cruise is the villain movie. Yeah, I would say it's a good watch. Is it a more than once watch? Sorry. Would I watch it more than once? Probably not. Shark Tale, underrated. I think Shark Tale deserves more respect. I think it's really enjoyable. I think the fact that it's kind of a Godfather parody while including actors from The Godfather is genius. I'd say it's a better Godfather film than the actual Godfather. We had this on DVD and we watched it over and over again. So maybe it's the nostalgia talking, but Shark Tale is a lot better than the reviews would have you think. Make sure we clear that route. Okay, cool. The Polar Express. Polar Express is bad. Don't like it. Animation is creepy. The story is bad. There's one half decent song in it. The rest of it, garbage. Fine. Here it goes. The Incredibles is 10 out of 10. Incredible film. Would recommend. Pixar's best. Disney's best. It's so good. It's just the superhero action, the family drama. It all works so well. Not saying they're ain't good though. Okay, we're gonna speed around a couple of these because according to YouTube, we currently have 0 viewers, which means I can do whatever I want. Alright, here we go. Thank you for smoking. It is pretty good. Kind of short. Kind of doesn't say as much. Doesn't say as much as I want it to. No, lower. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Read the book. Book was pretty good. Movie was alright. Actually, probably fits in right around here. Definitely spelled that wrong. Pretty close. We'll take one letter off. Revenge of the Sith. Yes, the best of the prequels. Simply on the memes alone. We're still sitting at 0 viewers. Yes, incredible. Good job, self. We're gonna get to the end of this page, and then we're gonna quit now. I don't think I can make it. Is there anybody in the chat? If there is one person in the chat, say something. Otherwise, I'm gonna call it. Because this is a lot of streaming for someone who doesn't know how to stream. I am very sleepy. It's time to go bed. How far did I get? $186. We can hit 200. We can hit 200. We can hit 200. These next couple, I may not talk much, but I'm going to push myself to get through 200 for the content. I am nothing if not a man of the people. Madagascar. Give points to King Julian. Everyone besides King Julian. Whatever. No, goes higher than that. Batman Begins. Second best of the Dark Knight trilogy. We'll say third or fourth best Batman movie. Above Shark Tale, above Young Frankenstein. Barely edges out Spaceballs. That's all I wanted. Is it above Spaceballs? Okay, here we go. Optimizing my setup here. Yes? Nope. Yes. Okay. War of the Worlds. Maybe my least favorite Spielberg I've seen. One of my less favorite Tom Cruises I've seen. Scroll down, scroll down. Yes. Fantastic Four, mid 2000s Fantastic Four. These are better than they get credit for. Tried their best to be very comic booky at a time when being comic booky was bad. In terms of their genuine quality. Charlie Talk Factory. This is what I was mentioning earlier, the point in Tim Burton's career where I stopped liking him. This is the exact moment. Every movie Tim Burton made before this was pretty good. Every movie Tim Burton made after this, including this, was not very good. I think this is when he thought he took his voice as a director too far and went and said, "Oh yeah, I'm cool and edgy and dark and weird, and people like that." No, we don't like that. Um, it's no good. It's also weird that they changed the title. This might also be the last Tim Burton movie on this list. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is really funny. It's like a weird pre-Iron Man Robert Downey Jr. and post-Batman Val Kilmer, and it's like a guy on the decline and a guy on the rise, and it works really well. Deserves to be higher up than this. Definitely deserves to be higher up than this. Chicken Little. Chicken Little is fine. Oh, why did I watch these movies? Chicken Little's alright. People say it's one of Disney's worst. I think it's one of Disney's most average. Oh, it's so stupid. Harry Potter. I'm over. I'm over Harry Potter. I haven't watched it. I would say year. It's been years since I've watched a Harry Potter movie, and yet I'm over it. Yes, fine. It will go here. Cars is fine. Um, it's definitely Pixar's weakest franchise. However, it's not terrible. Ice Age 2, passable. Passable. This is a very crucial tipping point for the Ice Age franchise, I think. Ice Age got a lot worse after this one. I think it barely made it by with this one. I think the new characters were charming enough that this was good. Mission Impossible 3, yeah, top tier. Top tier. If this movie wasn't incredible, Mission Impossible would have been done after this one because Mission Impossible 2 was pretty weak. However, it went from like low budget spy thriller to big budget action to big budget action with character, and I think that worked really well. And yeah, Mission Impossible was kind of on ice for a few years after this because it didn't make a huge amount of money, but I think the critical reception to it was enough to keep it alive. I think this was the right direction for it. Put it above the cat. X-Men 3 is not as bad as people say it is. It's definitely not good, but I think the way it focuses on action and comic book eness more than it does on being a serious movie gives it a few points in my book. Yeah. Listen, if you're gonna do Dark Phoenix, this was not the way to do it. But given the era, it's fine. Superman Returns. It's a weird continuation of Superman 1 and 2, and yet totally different and not as good. Yes, it is probably what the original Superman would have been like if it was released in the 2000s. However, that's not the case. That's not when it was released. And so I think while Superman Returns tries to update those movies, it isn't necessary. It's still fine though. Borat. I don't get Borat. I don't know why. I don't find it funny. It doesn't make sense. I think it is really funny when he gets. There are a couple not great people in these movies that he kind of catches in the act, and I think those are funny. But I think there are a lot of sequences where he catches innocent people and he kind of tricks them into saying things that maybe aren't the things that they mean to say, but it's weird. I think it's an interesting concept. I think it's just it's executed in a way that isn't really funny. The Departed, gangster movie. As we know, gangster movies not my favorite. But it's got a great cast. We'll give it props for that. The Prestige. Ooh, I guess we passed Batman Begins, but Christopher Nolan is by far not a director I like, but he has made a couple really good movies. The Prestige is one of them that is pretty decent. Definitely slogs in some points. But I think kind of the mystery and the intrigue of it all is pretty compelling. And Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale, pretty good guys. Good Night at the Museum. I think I said this about Bill and Ted, that there is a franchise that does. Oh, okay, well, it doesn't do it yet. So I'll say that. Night at the Museum. A really fun idea. And I think it's really well executed. I think it's funny. I think it's fun to watch. I think even kid or adult, it's the kind of movie that as a parent you take your kids to see and you don't hate it yourself. It's a fun adventure. Ooh. I think it's just really good. Maybe because, again, I watched it when I was the target audience for it. Flushed Away, I struggle with the Aardman claymation style. Um, Both this, I think, and Wallace and Gromit are well received and particularly praised on their animation. For some reason, it doesn't sit right with me. But Flushed Away was one of those movies we had on DVD and we watched over and over again. And I think it's a interesting, unconventional kids animated movie take. So it gets points for that. The Santa Claus 3. Okay. A movie that exists. A movie that I have seen. A movie that I do not like very much. Did we get the Santa Claus 2 in here? Oh, if we didn't, it's fine. Happy Feet. Oh, do I hate Happy Feet. It is a terrifying abomination. The animation in Happy Feet is disgusting, especially when it tries to animate people later on. I just don't like it. Well, it's been a while since we've had a Rocky movie. Rocky Balboa. Actually, fittingly, probably goes in here. He definitely has a son in this movie. Can't say I remember much of it, but it's fine. Meet the Robinsons. It's pretty good. I don't think it has much rewatch value, which I think is important in a kids movie, because if your kids can't watch it over and over again, then why are you buying it on DVD? This feels like the right place to put it. Spider-Man 3, yeah, listen, hear me out. Hear me out, Spider-Man 3. Top tier film. Um, yeah, it's got its flaws, however. It's such a mess. I love it. Shrek the Third, worst. It's Shrek the Third is the worst Shrek. I don't think there's any dispute about that. Um, the only dispute is how low on this list it should go. Surf's Up is underrated. I think it's been getting some more attention lately. Just because it is, there's a lot of praise given these days to kids movies that don't act like traditional kids movies, and Surf's Up is definitely one of them. I just don't think it hit me as strongly. Fantastic Four 2, Silver Surfer movie. Yeah, definitely not as good as the first Fantastic Four movie. But still, when you're a kid in the mid 2000s and all you really want to watch is people punch each other. Ratatouille. Ratatouille is fine. Ratatouille has gotten a lot of praise in recent years, we'll say, because people think it is LLXD random that a rat can cook, and people think that's very funny. It's a pretty good concept. The rest of the movie is fine. We need to chill on Ratatouille. There's no need for there to be a musical about it. Ratatouille is fine. It's far from the best Pixar movie, far from the best Disney movie. It's just okay. We need to calm down as a society on our opinion of Ratatouille. Yes, it's LOLXD random, but the Pixar has done a lot stranger concepts, a lot better. And I think the fact that people are so high on Ratatouille these days makes me lower on it. Do with that opinion what you will. Is this Harry Potter 5? Yeah, Harry Potter 5 is the worst of the Harry Potters. I think that's also pretty agreed upon. It's too long. I think it's the worst book as well, because the book is really long and unnecessary. This is fine. Fine place for it to be. Juno, I watched for the first time recently. It's a really cute movie. It definitely got a lot of recognition when it came out. I think its popularity has dwindled since then because a lot of movies have come out since then. And yeah, it's not one of my all-time favorites, but it's still pretty good. The Game Plan with your boy Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I think that was the first movie with The Rock that I watched. Maybe I know lots of movies with him came out beforehand, but I was too young to watch. The Mummy Returns when it came out. So The Game Plan was my first interaction, my first encounter with him. And it was pretty good. I want to say it's a Disney movie. And yeah, listen, in a technical sense, in terms of script writing and cinematography and all those things, it's not. yeah, not good. But just in terms of humor and heart and eagerness is the word. It tries to be something. B movie. B movie, God tier. Not enough though to watch over and over again. I do love my boy Jerry Seinfeld though. We're gonna check this, and there are still no viewers at the moment. So what we're gonna do, because I am a sleepy boy, we have made it to 217. And I almost hate that we've gotten that far. I think we are going. My loyal no viewers, we are going to have to call it quits for the night. And maybe I'll pick this up someday. Maybe I'll keep trying to get through the rest of the movies. However, 3.5 hours of this is too much for my small brain. Well, if you watched any part of this, I hope it was moderately enjoyable. I kind of had a fun time talking to the void. I've been told that, not necessarily that I'm good at talking, but I do it a lot. So maybe I will continue another time. But for now, thank you for accompanying me on this, what I think one would call pathetic movie ranking, because I am not qualified to give my opinion on movies at all. I'm certainly not qualified to talk about them for 3.5 hours. But it has been done. And I guess there's another 3.5 hours ahead of us, because I've only gotten halfway. But I'm gonna go to bed. So, thank you, gamers, for tuning in. And we will game some other time. Good night, goodbye.